In the last session, I just introduced you to a little bit of CMOS design and also demonstrated how to install TSMC 180 nanometer technology files in LTSpice. So today we will look into inverter design. Although in the last class also we touched upon inverter, but we will see some details and we will see how to measure the various power components and delays of inverter in today's class. Okay, now we saw this generally to make an inverter. We use a combination of PMOS and an NMOS. Okay, so the NMOS is known as the pull down device because we are using the NMOS to bring down the voltage to 0, and the PMOS is known as the pull up device because we are using that to charge the output to VDD, and that also we saw in the last class why we do so, because PMOS is a good transmitter of 1 and an NMOS is a good transmitter of 0. So that is the reason we use we make inverter in this particular configuration where you have PMOS on the top and NMOS on the bottom. So this particular graph again I had shown you last time, so let me show it once again. So on the x axis you have V in, and on the y axis here we have the output voltage. Okay, so this is an simulation from a 45 nanometer device. So the maximum voltage out here is an 1 volt. So you have on a 0 to 1 volt input which is changing from 0 to 1 volt. You see the output is initially when the input is 0 it is 1, and when the input is increasing it will fall sharply and it will come to 0. Okay, so this is basically inverting whatever is the input out here. Now if I plot the current, okay, the blue dotted line is the current, and on the right hand side axis you have the currents, okay, the scale of the current. If you see here, initially when the input is 0 out here, the NMOS is supposed to be off, but then there will be some leakage current, that is known as the static power dissipation. So when the input is 0, the static current is 15 pico ampere. Since in this case VDD is 1, it transforms to 15 pico watt of power. Okay. Similarly, when the input is 1, this PMOS is supposed to be off completely, but then some leakage current will be passing here. So that will amount to, that is measured here as 3.5 pico ampere. So 3.5 pico watt of power is being consumed, will be consumed when the input is input is 1. Okay, so this transfer characteristics we saw the last time. Okay, so we will see how to measure these also. Okay, is it clear to all of you till here? Okay, then we'll see here. Now we also discussed about short circuit loss in the last class, wherein we said, see, when we are sweeping the input voltage from 0 to, now let's take a case of 180 nanometer technology which we are going to simulate, in which the VDD is 1.8 volt. Okay, and then the threshold voltages is 0.6. So initially the input is 0, so this is off. Okay, no, this is on and this is off, so there is no current flowing here, so negligible current is flowing here, only static leakage current is there. So as the input is going up, it doesn't, nothing would happen, but the moment it crosses 0.6 volt, the input crosses 0.6 volt, this NMOS will be switched on. Okay, what about the voltage which is available across the source gate of the PMOS? It is 1.8 volt and this is 0.6 volt. So 1.8 minus 0.6 is 1.2 volt. That means this PMOS is also on and this NMOS is also on. So as we keep increasing this voltage, you will find the current is increasing, and when it reaches exactly halfway through, the current will be maximum, and then when the current when this voltage reaches 1.2 volt, okay, then you have this voltage, it is 1.8 here, 1.2 here, 0.6 volt. So the moment it goes beyond 1.2, this PMOS will switch off. So you will have it is getting again the current is 0. Okay, so you have an this is known as the short circuit current. There will be a path for the current to flow between VDD and ground during this transition. This is known as the short circuit current. So this will happen in both cases when the signal is going from low to high as well as from high to low. So this is known as the short circuit current, right? So, so I told one of the options to reduce this short circuit current is to pick up devices with high VT. So in many technologies we will see that in 45 nanometer presently the devices what I have shared with you, 180 nanometer, that doesn't that is a single VT devices, but we are when we talk about 45 nanometer technology and all, then they will find there is a low VT device, standard VT device and high VT device. So if you use an high VT device, then this VTN will get pushed slightly up and this VTP, this point will be pushed down. So you will have the short circuit only for a shorter duration of time. So we can minimize these short circuit currents, but the penalty there will be if you use an HVT device, the delays will be large. Okay, because if you see the ID equation, I is equal to VGS minus VT. So if you are using a high VT device, the currents will be low and hence the propagation delay. So that is the difficulty there. Okay, that last time if you just refer to that where in non-critical paths we can use those things I explained in the last class. Okay. Now this thing I missed out in the last class. The thing is when you have a load connected to a device, okay, CL, which is much higher, okay, than the intrinsic capacitances out here. Now if you see here at this particular output node, you have this drain you have this a drain gate capacitance and also the drain gate capacitance here, and again this CL is because of the external gates which are this gate is going to, this inverter is going to drive a few other gates. So if you see the gate capacitance of the next few stages, whichever this is driving, I am representing it as CL. Now if I have a large CL, what happens? Now if you see this red line, this is the input, which is the first topmost graph, dotted line, the input is going from 0 to 1.8. Okay. Now if you see the output, the black one is without the load. Okay, if there is no CL, then the output will fall sharply out here. Okay, and in between you will find there is a short circuit current. So this dotted in the third graph in the below, you have this dotted black line which is indicating that there is a short circuit current. Now once I put the capacitor out here, you will find this voltage will not fall rapidly. Okay, because now because of this capacitance out here, when the input voltage is there, it will this output node will start falling because the input is rising high, but whereas the output will slowly fall because of this capacitor. Now there is a capacitor put here, right? So it will try to hold that charge. So you have the greater propagation delay. It is falling slowly. Now since it is falling slowly, now if I take this reference point at 0.9, initially the output voltage had fallen to 1.4 volt. Now with the capacitive load at 0.9 volt, it has just fallen to 1.76 volt. Okay, so what happens is now although both these transistors are on, okay, but what about the PMOS? VDS is very VSD in this case is very small. Initially, since this voltage had dropped and this PMOS also on, so VDS was a significant value, so there was a current flowing. Now because this is close to VDD, since this is close to VDD, no current will flow here. I mean the lesser current will flow here, right? So that is the reason. Now when this reaches almost the input reaches almost the 1.8 volt, when it reaches, this voltage is still 1.8 for this particular example. Now if you see, even in that case, this voltage is just 0.2 is the VDS here, VSD here. Okay, and that is why the short circuit current gets limited in this particular case. So if you see here, for high capacitive loads, we don't have to bother about the short circuit currents. Is it clear to all of you, or I need to repeat this aspect? Is it clear to all of you? Can I have some response? Yeah, okay, okay. So that means the short circuit current, okay, will be more only if you don't connect a load. If you connect a load, then the short circuit current will be less. Okay, so but something else will go high, and what is going to go high is the switching loss. Okay, this again I explained very clearly in the last class. So we'll just quickly go through this. So whenever we have an input voltage going from high to low, this output node gets charged. So the energy which is stored in the capacitor is half VDD square CL. So the energy which is consumed from the source, if you have to integrate the voltage and to current, you get VDD square CL. So this is the energy which will be taken from the source. Half VDD square is the energy which gets stored in the capacitor, and half VDD square CL will get dissipated as heat in the PMOS. Similarly, when the input is going from low to high, this NMOS will be switched on. In that case, whatever is the energy stored in the capacitor, half VDD square CL, so that will get dissipated as heat in the NMOS. Okay, so always remember, capacitance or inductor never dissipates heat. They are only energy storing devices. So they store the energy and give it back to the circuit whenever required. Okay, so they are energy storing devices. They don't consume energy. Okay, but while charging this capacitor, since a current flows from VDD to this capacitor, and PMOS, if you consider it as a resistance, so I square R loss will be there. Okay, and that total energy which gets dissipated as heat is given by this equation of half VDD square CL. So obviously, if you are going to use a large capacitor, then this current will flow for a longer duration, and that much more heat will be dissipated in PMOS. And similarly, when we want to discharge this NMOS, if there is a large capacitance here, more charge will flow through this NMOS. Okay, that much more charge will flow, and hence that much more heat will be generated. So if I have to find out the power, I need to multiply it with the frequency in this particular case. Okay. Now there are a few more things which is important before we start the simulations, which is what is known as there is something known as switching threshold. Okay, now this is the VTC curve of an inverter. The x-axis is Vn and the y-axis is V out. So if I draw a line with slope equal to where Vin is equal to V out at 45-degree angle, if I do that, then it will intersect at some certain point, which is known as the inverter threshold. So graphically, you can this is the point. Okay, so more or less you can say if the voltage is below this, and it will be off, and below although noise margins will be different, you will have to make an that I explained what will be the noise margin. So this is known as the inverter threshold voltage. Okay. So this can be done analytically also. So we will not derive these equations. So I will just give you a hint how to go about it. It is like for that particular condition, V in is equal to V out, and that is known as Vm, threshold voltage. Both these transistors will be in saturation. So you and the same current flows in both these transistors. So it is Kn by N VGSN minus VTN, and Kp by 2 VSGP minus VTP. So you equate these two currents. Okay, so so you can have a look. I will share this PDP. It is a simple derivation. So I will just come to a point that if I want the this to be symmetrical exactly in between, okay, at VDD by 2, if I want this curve to be symmetrical, then I need to have WP by WN ratio approximately 2.5 or 2.4, 2.6 in that range. Okay, that is because in the current equation, if you see, there is mu n and mu p. Okay, that is the mobility of the electron and mobility of the holes, and mobility of the electron is around 500 centimeter square per volt second, whereas that of hole is around this much, and that of electron is in the range of 1300. So electron mobility is high, and that is why to compensate for that, you need to use the width of the PMOS, okay, at least 2.4, 2.5, 2.6 in this range. Only then you will get an symmetrical. If you are going to use an in this particular device, if you are going to use NMOS very strong, then this will shift, this curve will shift towards the left, because it will start falling off early itself. And if you are going to use an PMOS very strong, that is more than 2.5 or 4 times the NMOS, then it will take that much more time for this shift plot to start falling. That means a stronger NMOS will shift this curve towards the left, and a stronger PMOS will shift this curve towards the right. Okay, and to keep it just symmetrical with respect to VDD, we got to use NMOS PMOS ratio, that beta, which is known as beta. If both the lengths are kept constant, generally in our designs we are going to keep length as 180 nanometer, and as I told, the minimum width possible for a 180 nanometer technology is 400. So I keep this as 400. So this will be 800 plus another 200, so around 1000. So if I keep that, I will get an 1000 nanometer and 400 nanometer. If I keep it that way, 2.5 times, I will get an symmetric threshold. Okay, now for an these MOSFETs, okay, are also associated with some parasitic capacitances are associated with these MOSFET devices. Okay, so we just have to understand, okay, where does these capacitances come from. So if you see here, this is a gate metal, and then there is an insulator, and then you have an P substrate. So gate to bulk, there will be a capacitor. Similarly, when a channel is formed here, so you will have between gate and source also you have an insulator, and then there is a channel. So it is like having a source here. Okay, so you will have all this CGD, CGS, these capacitances. Okay, so now also when we fabricate it, generally what we do is we make an poly gate, and then we try to dope this N regions. Okay, so there will be some diffusion of N into the channel region also. So that also causes some extra capacitances. Okay, so only thing which we need to remember right now is that these devices, they have associated capacitances, and it is a function of W and L. Okay, so if you have obviously there is a gate here, right? So this, what is the this is L, and W is, if you go deep, that's the width of the transistor. So W by L, W into L is the area of that plate which is placed here over the insulator. So W into L, if you see what is the formula for a capacitor, it is an area into the epsilon divided by T, right? So in this particular case, epsilon and T is constant. Okay, we do that, they are not the design parameters available to us. W and L is a variable which we can set. So we have to understand that if you are going to use a large transistor, a large MOSFET with a large W and L, that is going to increase the capacitance. Okay, so that is the takeaway from this slide. Okay, now if you see what happens if we upsize a transistor. Okay, if you increase the size of a transistor, what happens? Okay, so in that case, obviously the current is going to increase, right? The current is going, because I is equal to, when I say upsize the transistor, it means only the width is being increased. Okay, the length is kept constant. Okay, so you have to look at that. When I say upsize, it's only the width is increased. So if I double, say if I double the width, okay, what happens? The current increases, okay, since the channel width is increased, in the ID equation you will find W is in the numerator, so the current increases, or you can say the resistance decreases of that particular channel, okay. But simultaneously the capacitance associated with the device also increases. So if you see what is propagation delay, it will be like how long it takes for the output node to get charged. So you are increasing the capacitance and increasing the current also, so they get eventually cancelled out, so there is no gain. So whenever if you have to increase the right, and so there is no point in increasing the width of the transistors, okay. You might as well use minimum widths out here whenever you have an isolated gate like this in your design. But in case you are driving a large capacitor, okay, out here, right, in this equation, if you see here, if this CL, okay, is much larger to the intrinsic capacitances out here, in that case if I increase W, okay, then I can reduce the propagation delay. So when you make a big circuit, you have to see, okay, what is that particular there could be multiple transistors and multiple gates at different stages. So it depends. There is no generalized rule, so you have to see, okay, the effect of increasing these widths, it is going to increase whether you will be able to achieve a decreased propagation delay or not. That depends on the load capacitance as well. Okay, if there is no load capacitance at all, then you may not gain anything. But in most of the cases, there will be certain load capacitance, and by increasing the size of the MOSFETs to some extent, you will be able to decrease the propagation delay. Okay, but okay, there is always a penalty. If you increase the capacitance, then the power consumption is going to be high, because by increasing this, the capacitance is going to get high at this node, because they are going to add some capacitance. Also some short circuit currents also will increase. So so it is always a trade-off. So if you increase the size, you might be able to get a better response in time, in switching response, but the power consumption might go high. Is this aspect clear to all of you? Yeah, Sasidhar, anybody?
No doubt, sir.
Okay, good.
No doubt, sir.
Okay. Now we also say if we sizing ratio beta, okay, beta is known as WP by WL if WLP and LN is constant. So if you keep increasing the width of the P, you will find the rise time is decreasing, okay, because now P is stronger, so you will find the rise time will decrease. But if you at the same time the fall time will increase now, because N has become much weaker. So you will find, so again to get an optimum propagation and delay, okay, generally again around close to 2.5 is the value which we should target in our design, so that we get best propagation until. If you understand this plot, if you increase the size of the P, okay, it will be the rise time will decrease. Okay, rise time is the time taken for, now that we know, you can call it that way, the time taken for the signal to come to 1, whereas the fall time is this. So you will find the fall time will increase, because now P has become more stronger. So the optimum condition out here, where to have an optimum delay condition, is to have a P MOS width close to 2.5 times the width of an NMOS. Okay, so with this we come to end of the theory session. So let me demonstrate you a few things. Okay, now this is an NMOS transistor. This I showed you last time how to install these technology files. So what I have done is, if you see, I have put a width of 400 nano. Okay, here I have put the width of the PMOS as a variable. Okay, I have given it as WP. Okay, WP indicates width of PMOS. I have put it as a variable. I have not declared that variable because I want to see the effect of change of variable. This is a voltage source and which is 1.8 volt. That is a VT, and okay. I think students are coming out of the bits mail, so that is why it's popping up. Okay, anyway, so I have not given any DC voltage out here because I'm going to use this as an variable. Okay, so let me just explain you once again. This is an NMOS, 400 nanometer. This is a PMOS. I have kept this as WP variable. Okay, this is a fixed source. DC value is 1.8 volt. This is an input source. I have not given any DC value out here. I have labeled this net as V in. Okay, V in, so that I can plot that. I have labeled this net as V out. So if you see where did this pin come from, I go label net and then I have written V out, and then port I have selected as output. Okay. So that is why you get a port, something ports like this. Okay, so you can put a port also here. So this is an output port. Okay, now what is the this is include TSMC 018.lib. This you need to put it in all your simulations. So unless you put that, this won't work, right? It requires a model file. So that is that. And now this is the DC parameter which I am sweeping. Right, where did I get that from? Like last time I explained you, edit simulation command, go to DC sweep, source is V1, linear from 0 to 1.8 in steps of 0.02. Okay, so that I have given here. Now I want it for now various values of WP. Okay, so I can write this command. Okay, a dot step param, that means step parameter WP, because I have declared here it as WP, starting from 800 nano, okay, to 1600 nano, okay, with a step size of 400 nano. So this is the syntax for writing an parametric sweep. Okay, dot step parameter WP 800 nano. This is the starting value, this is the end value, and 400 nano is the step size. Okay, now if I run the simulation and if I plot, okay, so I get these, okay, for 3 different values of WP. This is for the first value. If you see, as I keep increasing WP, it is moving towards the right. So for 2.5 I am getting almost something which is an symmetrical, and for other values it is getting towards the right or left. Okay, so this is the VTC curve which we get with respect to an inverter. So there are other simulations also which we need to do. Okay, now if I try to let me try and compute the power. Okay, now for power, this is the same circuit. So I have not done any changes. I have run it. Now how to compute the static power? Okay, because I am doing DC analysis, I will be able to compute only the static power in this particular simulation. So I can plot the current which is going from the source. Okay, now this is in negative. Okay, it is showing in a negative value. It is showing negative because if the current is coming out of a device, it will show negative. So you have to interpret. So it will show a negative value. If I plot the current for an PMOS, if you see, it will show positive here, right? Because it is going into the device. So now if I have to find out the static power, okay, static power is when the input is 0 or the input is 1, right? So I can go here and I put an cursor here, okay, and I move this cursor out here. So you will find here, okay, there is some value which is given here in the table. Okay, it is showing some 28 pico ampere, right? So that much ampere into the voltage you will get. Similarly, I can put this cursor towards this end and find out what is this is showing some 4.8 picoampere. So that is the current. So current multiplied by the voltage, okay, it will give you the static powers at these two ends. Okay, so that is static power when the input is so that is how we compute the static power. You could also do one thing. If I press Alt, okay, and I move, if I press Alt, okay, I'll get a thermometer kind of thing here. If I press that, okay, if I press that, it will plot the power directly. Okay, so if you see here, it is an from 90 microwatt. It's in negative because if I am plotting the power source, it is giving power. 90 power means it is not dissipating any power. It's negative because it is giving power to the circuit. So if you see here, this is maximum, that is during short circuit current, the maximum power it's giving maximum power. So if I put an cursor out here, okay, so if I move this cursor here, so if you see here, it says 87 microwatt. So at this particular DC condition, 87 microwatt is the power, and here it is around 39 picowatt, and on the right hand side it is 13 picowatt. Okay, so that is how you measure the static power dissipation of this particular circuit. Okay, we can also use this particular command to find out to measure these power. So if I just write okay here, okay, dot MEAS measure. Okay, so I put it here and then I right click here, so it will give me one window like this here. Okay, I am doing an DC analysis. Okay, and what is the result? Okay, and now what is the result is, I want the power, right, to be calculated. So I write V bracket VDD, okay, into I, right, and V2. VDD, this is the net. Okay, this is the voltage into the current which is coming from here. So that current is an I and the device is V2. So I write that, and then this is find, okay, for DC okay, sorry, this is what is to be measured. This I can just give a name as power. Okay, at point 0. Okay, that is if the input is 0. Okay, so you'll find this equation coming here. So you got to write 0 volt also, right? So if I click here, if I do test, it will give what is the power, 3.8 into, okay, that is around 35 35 picowatt. Okay, now similarly if I have to find at an 1.8 volt, so I put test, so it will give the power at that particular one. So you can use these kind of commands also to find the power. Okay, so this is all about static power. So now let's try and find out the delays and okay, now this is to find out total power. Okay, so for that I have used an instead of an DC power supply source, I have used an pulse train out here, and then I am doing a transient analysis. Okay, so that is the difference. So now I plot V in. So this is V in, and okay, now let me before that, let me remove this capacitance and show you first, and let me plot this output. Okay, now when you see this waveform, you will find, okay, this input signal is slightly overshooting at these places, right? The output signal is overshooting here, and it is also undershooting here. So you don't have to be worried about that. what happens is when you are giving a steep input signal, if you give very high rise time, that will even further more shoot. So when you are giving this, suppose the signal is going from 0 to 1, this has to fall from 1 to 0, right? But even before this current starts falling, because of the gate to drain capacitance, okay, this signal gets coupled in the output. Okay, so you will have some charges, from here to here through the gate to the drain capacitance getting coupled at the output. But eventually, when this starts conducting properly, the signal will this output will fall to. So do you understand why this peaking is happening? Any of you? Is it understood why there is a peak out here? Okay, that peak is because when I am giving a steep signal out here, right, this signal, because of the gate to drain capacitance, it gets coupled to the output. Okay, that is known as a clock on feed through, that phenomena. So you will find some charges are going to get coupled, and because that will be much faster than the reaction of this MOSFET. Actually, the current will slowly start following here. So you will have these kind of glitches coming here, right? Now if you have to find the propagation delay, okay, what I can do is I can put a cursor here first. Okay, so I try to move this cursor slowly. I bring it to close to 0.9 volt out here, right? Okay, now if you see here, what is the value of the time here? It is 1.23 nanosecond. Okay, now here also I put an cursor out here. Now if you see here, if I am going to put it around close to 0.9, it is 1.22, right? So here it was something else, right? So you will find if you take the difference between these two, you will get the propagation delay. Okay, this is the output. This is 1.22 and this we found as 1.29. So there is some delay, right? So that is how you find out the delays of this circuit. Okay, so if suppose if I connect an capacitor load here and I run the simulation, you will see now it is much slower. You will find the delays has gone high. So depending on the load capacitance, you will find that the delay has increased in this case. So this is how you compute the delay. Again, you will put a cursor here and cursor here in the midway and you find out the difference. Now let's try and understand how to measure the total power and things like that. So let me first remove the capacitor and then I run, and then to find out the power, let me just plot the current which is flowing into this PMOS. Right. Okay. Now if you see the current which is now flowing into the PMOS, so you will find that, okay, let me also plot the let me plot only the output. Let me plot the current as well as the output voltage. Add plot plane. Now whenever the input voltage is going output voltage is going from 0 to high, okay, the PMOS is getting an the current in the PMOS is increasing, whereas from when it is going from high to low, there is no current in the PMOS which is going high. This is because of this a low dip transition. Okay, so if you see here, the PMOS current is going high only when there is an transition from, that is the output capacitance node is getting charged. Similarly, if I plot the current in the NMOS out here, So in the NMOS, if you see here, the current is only when only when the signal is going from high to low. But there is also a current here also. Okay, why is this current here? This is because of the short circuit current, because I have not connected any load. So I find there is some short circuit currents also here, right? So this is because of the short circuit current, and this is the current. The output capacitance is getting it is being pulled down by the NMOS. This is the output node is getting charged through the PMOS, this current. Okay, so if I connect this load capacitance now, it will become very clear. Now connected a load capacitance. So now if you see what happened, this output is going from 0 to high, right? At that time, this is the bottom green one is the current of the PMOS. So you have this PMOS current going high, right? Whenever the output is going from high to low, right, then the NMOS current is going high. So you see here, whenever the output is changing from 0 to high, you have the PMOS current going high. Whenever the output is going from high to low, the NMOS current is going high. Okay, and now you have a very less of short circuit current, because I have connected a bigger load capacitance. That I told you, if you connect the bigger load capacitance, the short circuit current will decrease. So it is decreased out here, right here. So this is how we plot the currents. Now if you have to find out the power, you can do several things. Okay, one is if you have to find out the total power, you can plot the current which is flowing in this, right, and then you can find out the average. That is, if once the current is plotted out here, if I press control and I press here, it gives the average value. Now it is in the negative because this is giving current to the circuit. So I have an average current multiplied by the voltage, which is 1.8. So I can find out the total current in this circuit. Okay, the next option which is available to me is I can directly plot the powers. Okay, so I will press Alt. So this is the power from here. This is the power of PMOS. This is the power of NMOS. Okay, now let me add plot plane. Now if you see again, this is whenever the output is being charged to high, so you will have the power of PMOS. Okay, power is being dissipated in PMOS. Okay, and same time power is being drawn from the source. It is in negative, this is in positive. And whereas when the output, I have not plotted the output signal. Whenever the output signal is going from high to low, the power will be dissipated in NMOS. During that time, there is no power being drawn from the power supply source, except for little bit of short circuit current, right? So if you see here, if I right click on this, okay, if I press control on average, it is 38 microwatt. That is the power which is taken from the power supply source. Now if I take the power control, it is around 20 is the power which is taken by the PMOS, and around 20 is the power which is taken from the NMOS. So 20, and this will be 40. So if you recall back our theory which we discussed, the power which will be taken from the power supply source will be F into VDD square CL. Okay, so and what will be dissipated as heat in the PMOS will be half of that, half VDD square CL into F. Similarly in NMOS it will be half VDD square into CL. So if you see, this is almost, this is close to 40, right, and 38 it shows. Okay, and this is 20, and this is also 20, right? So that is one way of computing the power of this circuit. So we have computed the total power, and this is the that is the total power, including static, dynamic, switching, everything. So PMOS power, NMOS power, and the total power which is consumed from the source. So if I have to find out the static power, Well, I can also do that also, static power also, if I press here. So this is the place where there is no activity happening, right? So if I put a cursor out here, if I put a cursor out here where there is no activity, so that gives me the static power. So if I see on this window, okay, there is no it is femtowatts. Okay, so there is no power here. Similarly, here also there is no power, that is the static power. Okay, so this is also static power. It is 2.8 picowatt. Okay. So this is again 2.8 picowatt. Okay, so this is the places where you can find the static. Okay, here there is some switching activity, so hence the total average will give you the total power. Okay, so that is the way you can measure the power of this circuit. Okay, again, if you want to use this measure command, you can do that also. If I right click on here, okay, I just have to get this. What I have to do is to get this window is, okay, I just go to this SPICE window, write an MEASURE. Okay, measure. Okay, I put it here. Okay, sorry, it has to be dot measure. Okay, and then I right click it, I will get this window. Okay, so when I right click it, and then it will say here, now I am talking about average. I want average, so I am giving a result name is power. I can give some name. This is average. Okay, measured is V in into I in. Now I have to find out the total power which is being drawn. So I have given this net name as I in. So I have written V in into I in, and then here I have something known as a trigger condition. So I can write from. Okay, from 0 nano to 4 nano, right? 4 nano. So I can do that. So it will give me the power. So I can use this this kind of measure command also to compute the power. Okay, but an easier option is, like I said, is to just to plot the waveform and take average. Okay, so with respect to inverter, I think we have covered everything: how to measure delay, how to measure static power, how to measure dynamic power. We have seen the effect of changing this size of the this thing and the transistor, and see how the VTC shifts. Okay, the effect of adding capacitor, and it increases the delay. So you can further build on. If you whatever doubts you have in your mind, it is better you do a simulation and try to analyze the results. Okay, so with that, I think I come to an end of this part of today's lecture, which is on inverter. Now I'll give you a small home assignment.